This segment we're going to feature our GeoPrime tank. Our GeoPrime tank has a lot of features and benefits, and we're going to particularly talk about how it applies to our plug-and-play family of products. The GeoPrime tank has a number of benefits that we particularly like here. It's a 2.5 gallon reservoir. It has baffles in it. You're going to see some graphics here in just a short little bit. It can be either pressurized up to 13 psi, make it a pressurized system, or it can be a non-pressurized system. Again, some of the features, you see a sight glass here so you can tell what your elevation of your fluid level is in the reservoir. But one of the things that we really like about this particular tank is you're going to see here that it's the composite three-way valve similar to what's in our typical flow controllers. What we like about this is that you can put it in the position that you see now, and it bypasses the tank so you can properly flush a ground loop. You can hook up an appropriate flush cart and use a 2 feet per second minimum flushing flush cart to get that air dislodged. Once you've properly flushed the system, including the coax, you rotate these three-way valves so that now the fluid coming back from your loop field comes into this portion of the reservoir, and the fluid is then drawn over these baffles and taken through the heat pump. We're going to actually go through the flushing process here in our lab using our training loop. We've installed some acrylic clear plastic pipes so that we can actually see how the GeoPrime tank will do a very, very nice job of eliminating air. So again, don't try this at home, don't try this in the field. This is example only here for us in the lab. So now let's go through the process of flushing our plug-and-play family of products as it pertains to the GeoPrime tank, filling the tank, and then going through the startup operations. So we're going to come over here. As you saw previously in our flushing video, we have our hoses hooked up appropriately. What you'll end up with, by the way, is you'll have your loop coming through the top of your GeoPrime tank, exiting the GeoPrime tank, and coming into the end connection at the heat pump. One of the things you want to do with a GeoPrime tank is you want to get it in an elevation that is higher than your pump. And in this case, it's onboard pump inside our plug-and-play. What that does is that 2.5 gallons of fluid acts as a, well, it gives it some head pressure. It provides the appropriate amount of head pressure that the Grundfos pump manufacturers want to see on their pump. It gives you that suction pressure. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the flush cart in a moment here. And I'm going to rotate my flush valve so that I'm favoring just the loop. Again, bypassing that coax. Okay, we're ready to flush the system now. So now that we've completed flushing our lab loop here and the coax through the heat pump, as you saw in a previous video, we've already opened up the valve that goes to our expansion tank and bled the little bleed port here between the coax and the expansion tank. Now it's time to actually add the fluid into the GeoPrime tank. You have many of options, of course, garden hose, things of that nature, but shoot, if you've got a solution of brine material in your flush cart, you might as well use that as the additive into your tank. So we're going to go ahead and add the fluid into here, keeping an eye on our sight glass, see how we're doing. So now that we've finished filling our GeoPrime tank, which again holds about 2.5 gallons of fluid if you filled it all the way to the top, you can see our fluid level is about here in the sight glass. So there's a couple inches on the very top of the tank that still has air in it. I'm going to go ahead and replace our cap, make sure it's on good and tight. And now we're ready to put our tank into service. So we've actually had our valves in a position where the off portion of the valve was pointing toward the tank. So we're not flowing through the tank. We're bypassing the tank for, again, flushing purposes to make sure we get the air out of our system with the proper flush cart. Now we're going to rotate these valves so the off position is here and here, so that the flow is going through the reservoir and back down through the valve into the heat pump itself. And now we're ready to show what the system looks like when it's in operation and how well it'll do to remove a good amount of the air that might still be left in your system. If you didn't do a thorough job of pressurization and flushing, then this can actually take care of a bit of air. Don't rely on it and exclude a flush cart. That will never be successful. All right, so we've just activated the pump on board our plug-and-play family of products, so we're now circulating fluid, and we've rotated our valves so that now the fluid is coming into the tank, going through the dip tube that comes down in this vicinity. Fluid is going to be routed and down through here. Just as a graphic display of how well this will do to help eliminate any air that perhaps you weren't able to fully get out because you might not have had quite the adequate flush cart, I'm going to inject a little bit of air with this tire pump, and you'll see the air coming into the tank, and it's going to capture most of it. You can see that air coming into the tank being carried by the pump, but as it exits to go back into the heat pump, it's pretty darn clear and pretty void of air. Let's try this again. So you can see, again, the acrylic clear piping is for our use only, just to graphically display how well the GeoPrime tank will help to eliminate some of the air and hopefully cause less cavitation on the pumps, again providing that head pressure, and make it so it's a much less maintenance required system. We think it's a good addition to our quality products, and we hope you'll consider trying a couple of them out.